Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how one of the chief Brexiteers has tried to use EU law to get out of paying his taxes as we move the Brexit irony needle up another notch. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So Arron Banks is at it again, the cheeky chappy. HMRC said that Banks owed something in the region of £160,000 in inheritance tax based on donations to UKIP some years ago. Now, donations to political parties can be exempt from this tax under certain conditions that were not met by UKIP at the time. And so it's 160 grand, please, Mr. Banks. Now, Arron Banks, like any grifter, did not get to his level of wealth by sending it to where it could do some good for the general population, namely his country's treasury. So he tried to fight back. And what legal route did he take in order to do this? This man who has led and still leads the Leave.EU campaign, spreading lies about British, European and global politics in order to disable the UK's power, he tried to argue that this taxation rule was against EU law. Now, before I get onto the general point of ignorance here, let's look at what he's essentially doing, because this is what's most important. One, he's trying to use EU law against the British government. You know, because Her Majesty's Revenues and Customs is a department within the British Treasury. So this is a guy who persuaded millions of people to vote against our own interests, persuaded them that EU laws are bad and how unpatriotic it is to even have EU laws. In fact, a deep act of a lack of patriotism to even speak in favour of EU laws. And yet he has tried to use them to save himself a sum that he can easily afford, to stiff over poor old Blighty out of some public funding. And more than that, as I say, it's not just that he's tried to use EU law. That would be, you would think, embarrassing enough. He's specifically tried to use it against the sovereign power of the UK. You know, our Parliament's sovereign power to appoint a government and for that government to set taxation rules. I mean, I would have thought that was fairly unpatriotic. Secondly, not only is he trying to use EU law against the British government, but he's trying to do it at a time when the Brexiteers are also trying to tell us that Brexit has been done and we're out of the EU. So why is one of the chief Brexiteers, one of the self-named bad boys of Brexit, now seeking to use EU laws for anything, whether it's to attack the UK or what? And then third and finally, it sort of strikes me as particularly ironic that Arron Banks would try to use EU law to get out of paying taxes, when the whole point of leaving the EU for many absurdly wealthy individuals such as himself was to avoid paying tax because of the EU's drive towards cutting down on the number of tax avoidance schemes, the EU's much vaunted anti-tax avoidance directives, which come online now. It would have been a complete nonsense had he been able to get out of paying his due taxes using EU law, when the most recent EU legislation has sought to clamp down on this very form of avoidance. So of course the judge threw it out. Interestingly, you know, the point of ignorance here I would sort of say is the EU law he sought to invoke was that in the European Convention of Human Rights. It's not technically EU law, though it is adopted by the EU. But let's not quibble, that is not the key issue here. The key issue, as I say, he has attempted to use EU law against Britain's sovereignty. And that should be the take home from this. It was pointed out by the judge that having to pay taxes on his donations in no way deterred him from expressing opinions or supporting a legal political party. Because that's what Banks were trying to say. Well, if you charge me tax on this, that's like you're saying I can't publicly support UKIP. No. Do what you want. So it seems that not content with letting Nigel Farage have all the circus spotlight this week with his complaining about Chinese goods from a Chinese good, i.e. his iPhone, Arron Banks wanted to get in on the Clown Act too. So anyway, let me know your thoughts below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.